It was one of those perfect late spring mornings in Willow Creek, the kind where the sun spills gold over the rooftops and the air hums with the promise of summer. I'd been up since dawn, tending to my pride, enjoy a custom-built smoker I'd nicknamed the Beast. Today, it was loaded with a 14-pound brisket, seasoned with a rub I'd spent years perfecting. Brown sugar, smoked paprika, a whisper of cayenne, and a secret pinch of something my late wife, Clara, used to call magic dust. The mesquite and oak logs were glowing just right, sending thin tendrils of fragrant smoke curling into the sky. I stood in my driveway, sipping black coffee from a chipped mug, Johnny Cash crooning faintly from an old radio on the porch. Life felt good until I saw her coming. Marlene Pritchard wasn't just the president of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association. She was its self-appointed dictator, a woman who wielded bylaws like a medieval warlord swings a broadsword. She marched toward me in her neon green leggings and matching VY sore, her little terrier, Biscuit, trotting beside her on a rhinestone leash. In her hand was the ever-present clipboard, her weapon of choice, and her face was set in a scowl that could curdle milk. I waved lazily, figuring I'd try the friendly route first. "Morning, Marlene. Smells like heaven out here, don't it? Brisket's got about 8 hours left. Want me to save you a slice?" Her lips pursed so tight they nearly disappeared. "Henry Grayson," she said, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "This is a violation." She jabbed a manicured finger toward the Beast, where a plume of smoke rose like a lazy ghost. "Open flames in the driveway. Cooking meat in public VYEW. This is a fire hazard, a health risk, and a blatant disregard for HOA regulations." She whipped out a laminated sheet because, of course, it was laminated and pointed to a line she'd highlighted in neon yellow. "No grilling, smoking, or cooking appliances permitted in driveways or front-facing property areas." I glanced around. The street was quiet, save for a couple of kids riding bikes and a mockingbird singing its heart out in Mrs. Delaney's oak tree. The Beast sat steady on its legs, puffing away. No flames in sight, just the slow, controlled burn of a well-tended smoke. "Marlene," I said, keeping my tone light, "this ain't a bonfire. It's a smoker. Been running here for 23 years, and the only thing I've ever set fire to is my taste buds. You sure you don't want to sample?" Her eyes narrowed to slits. "This isn't a negotiation, Henry. You're creating a public nuisance. The smoke is trespassing onto other properties. Me property included, and I won't stand for it." She stepped closer, her clipboard trembling slightly in her grip. "Cease this immediately, or I'll be forced to take action." I wiped my hands on my apron, a faded thing with Grill Master stitched in red, and gave her a grin that had charmed me out of plenty of trouble back in my firefighting days. "Well, I reckon we'll just have to agree to disagree until this brisket's done. Can't rush perfection." That was the match to her fuse. Marlene gasped like I'd confessed to arson, then whipped out her phone with the speed of a gunslinger. "I'm calling the police," she hissed, loud enough for the whole block to hear. "Yes, hello, 911. I need to report an illegal open fire and a potential health hazard in Willow Creek." "Yes, it's in a driveway, some sort of meat-smoking contraption. The smoke is thick, it's a danger to the neighborhood." I raised an eyebrow as she painted me as some kind of backyard pyro, summoning demons with a side of beef. The kids on bikes slowed down to watch, and old Mr. Carver peeked out from his garage, probably wondering if he'd finally get a front row seat to some real drama. 10 minutes later, a patrol car rolled up, lights off, windows down. Out stepped Officer Torres, a wiry guy in his early 30s with a mustache that looked like it was still deciding whether to commit. He sniffed the air, glanced at the Beast, then turned to me with a smirk. "You the firebug?" I held up my tongs. "Guilty as charged, officer. Name's Henry Grayson. Want a taste?" "It's not ready yet, but the bark's coming along." Marlene charged forward, Biscuit yipping at her heels. "This is a clear violation of HOA rules." "He's refusing to comply." Torres raised a hand, his expression somewhere between amused and exhausted. "Ma'am, I don't see an open flame. No illegal active VY tie here. This is a smoker, not a Molotov cocktail. And frankly, it smells like a damn good reason to live in this neighborhood. Her jaw dropped. Are you serious? This is a fire hazard, a public health issue. Torres shrugged, unfazed. I've seen arsons, ma'am. This is a barbecue with a driveway VYEW. Unless he's burning tires or cooking meth, I've got no jurisdiction here. That's when Ethan Parker, the lanky 16-year-old from next door, pulled out his phone and started filming. Marlene, red-faced and VY-ing her laminated sheet like a battle flag, shrieked, "This whole street will reek of charred flesh." Ethan's thumbs flew over his screen, and before Torres even got back in his car, the VY Deo was live on TikTok. HOA tyrant calls cops on Barbecue King. By noon, it had 50,000 VYUs with comments like, "Let Henry cook," and "Biscuit deserves ribs, not this drama." I went back to tending the beast, humming Ring of Fire, as Marlene stormed off, muttering about lawsuits and fines. What she didn't know, what nobody knew, was that this wasn't just a Saturday cookout. 2 weeks earlier, Mayor Laura Hensley had called me personally. She'd heard about my ribs from a mutual friend, a retired EMT, who swore my brisket could bring a man back from the brink. Laura wanted me, Henry Grayson, ex-fire captain, pitmaster by Pasianto, cater a surprise lunch for the first responders who'd worked through last year's flood. No press, no fuss, just a quiet thank you with slow smoked meat. I'd agreed, figuring I'd cook at home and drop it off later. But thanks to Marlene's meltdown and Ethan's VY Ral post, the secret was unraveling faster than a cheap sweater. By mid-afternoon, the neighborhood was buzzing. The scent of the beast had drawn a crowd. Neighbors I hadn't seen in months strolled by, sniffing the air, dropping hints like "Smells mighty fine out here, Henry," and "You ever think of sharing the recipe?" I just smiled and nodded, letting the smoke do the talking. Marlene, meanwhile, escalated her war. She fired off an HOA-wide email. Subject: Emergency Code Violation, Public Safety at Risk. Attached were grainy photos of the beast, zoomed in so tight it looked like I was running an industrial forge. She demanded immediate disciplinary action and hinted at legal repercussions if unauthorized driveway cookery wasn't stopped. My phone buzzed with a text from my buddy Ray down the street. "Dude, she's losing it over your meat." I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my basting brush. As the brisket hit its final hour, a small crowd gathered across the street. Lawn chairs appeared, someone rolled out a cooler, and Ethan went live again, narrating like a sports announcer. "And here we are, folks, day one of the Great Barbecue Rebellion." Marlene paced her front yard, glaring like a general watching her army desert. What she didn't see coming was the mayor's arrival. Laura pulled up in a beat-up Jeep, no official plates, just jeans and a baseball cap, trying to keep it low-key. She hopped out, strode up my driveway, and grinned. "Henry, I could smell this 5 blocks away. Tell me it's ready." I lifted the lid, revealing a mahogany-crusted brisket that glistened like a jewel. "Right on time, Madam Mayor." Before I could load the trays into her car, Marlene charged across the street, biscuit in tow. "What is this?" she barked. "Unauthorized food sale VYC. This is a restricted area Article 6, Section B." Laura turned, slid her sunglasses down her nose, and fixed Marlene with a stare that could freeze lava. "I don't recall asking for your input. I'm Laura Hensley, mayor of this town, and Henry's catering a private event for me. You got a problem? Take it to City Hall. Good luck." Marlene blinked, stunned into silence. The neighbors watching from their porches went still, jaws dropping. Someone whispered, "Is that the mayor?" Another let out a quiet "hell yeah." Marlene opened her mouth, closed it, then retreated, yanking Biscuit's leash so hard the poor dog yelped. Laura helped me load the Jeep brisket, ribs, a vat of baked beans, and handed me an envelope with a wink. "Official gratitude," she said. "Keep doing what you do, Henry. You've got more allies than you think." Then she drove off, Leah VYing a trail of smoky promise in her wake. I figured that'd be the end of it. Marlene had been publicly humbled. The mayor had my back. But I'd underestimated her. By morning, she'd regrouped, sending out another email announcing an emergency HOA meeting to address rogue barbecue active VY ties and the decline of Willow Creek standards. She even included a clip art flame next to my name, like I was some kind of suburban arsonist. The meeting was set for 6 p.m. at her house, and to my surprise, half the neighborhood showed up some with popcorn. One guy with a six-pack, he refused to surrender when Marlene tried to confiscate it. I walked in wearing my apron, carrying a tray of smoked sausage bites. If I was going down, I'd do it with flavor. Marlene stood at the front, armed with a projector and a PowerPoint titled The Barbecue Menace: How Meat Smoke Threatens Our Way of Life. Slide 1. A blurry shot of the beast labeled Unlawful Smoke de VYC. Slide 2. A still of her mid-scream from Ethan's TikTok, captioned Victim of Smoke Trespass. The room stifled laughs as she ranted about property values and fire risks, climaxing with, "If we allow this, what's next? Lobster boils in the street? Deep-fried turkey in the cul-de-sac? This is the edge of anarchy." The laughter broke free then, soft at first, then rolling through the room. I stood, set my tray on her coffee table, and lifted the foil. The aroma hit like a warm wave, silencing her mid-sentence. "Brought a little something for the board," I said. "No bribes, just neighborly sharing." Marlene snapped. "You can't sway us with meat." But it was too late. Hands reached for bites, murmurs of approval spreading. Then the door opened. In walked Fire Chief O'Connell, 2 uniformed firefighters, and Laura Hensley, to-go container in hand. Marlene stammered, "This is a private meeting." O'Connell stepped forward. "We're here to support Henry. His setup's safer than most kitchens who checked. He's fed first responders, veterans, half this block. No violations." Laura added, "As mayor and a resident, I endorse driveway barbecues. Want to fight it? I'll call a press conference." Marlene's face twitched. "This mocks our rules. It's chaos." Ethan whispered, "Chaos never smelled this good." And the room erupted. In her final act, Marlene lunged for the tray, knocking over iced tea and coleslaw onto her precious bylaws. She stood, drenched and defeated, as O'Connell handed her a napkin. "Let the smoke clear, ma'am." She stormed out, trailing cabbage, biscuits scampering behind. The next day, she tried a new tactic, calling the county health department with an anonymous tip about unsafe meat distribution. Inspectors arrived by noon, but I was ready. My setup was spotless logs, thermometers, sealed bins. They sampled the ribs, nodded approval, and left with clean reports and full stomachs. Word spread, and Marlene's crusade faltered. A week later, fate dealt her a blow. Smoke poured from her backyard at the citronella candle had ignited her planter box. I grabbed my hose and doused it, VYing her patio as she stood there, soaked and speechless. "Old habits," I said. "Next time, ask before you panic." She muttered a grudging "thank you" and slinked inside. The tide turned for good when Ethan's petition, the Grayson Grill Amendment, passed 35-6, legalizing driveway cookouts. Marlene resigned, replaced by my granddaughter, Sophie, who promised community over control. That night, I hosted a block-wide barbecue. Firefighters, neighbors, even the mayor showed up. As I flipped ribs, I saw Marlene watching from her window, expression unreadable. The war was over, but the smoke? That was just getting started. I grinned, whispering to the night, "Next time, Marlene, bring marshmallows." We solve problems low and slow around here. If you were the one in this story, how would you react? Would you stand up and fight back, or accept the unreasonable pressure and control from the HOA? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this VY Deo with more people. Your small action gives us the motivation to keep bringing you more intense and engaging stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next VY Deo.